one of our celebrity guests,
Hey,
Mr. Jeff Woolwine.
how you doing?
Oh, watch out for that.
Don't do that.
How are you doing today?
Doing great.
Tell us about what you are doing here at the PARACON.
Holy cow, we are doing the seance, the haunted seance experience, Saturday, tonight, Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday we are doing the UFO show, Sunday morning, the Phoenix Lights. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Lights, how they're connected with the Native American petroglyphs that's carved in Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. And we are going to be checking out the seance tomorrow night.
Great.
Live. So come on back tomorrow night, everybody. But yeah, thanks for talking to us, Jeff. I look forward to seeing your seance and your UFO show. I've been wanting to see that for a couple years now.
Thank you so much.
Haven't had a chance, so looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
We'll catch up with you in a little bit.
Okay.
Jeff Woolwine, one of the leading researchers of the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. I'm sure you've heard about that, a big, strange event that thousands and thousands of people witnessed in the Phoenix area. And he is an expert on that subject, so I'm looking forward to checking out his symposium.
Welcome back to another Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show. How is everyone doing tonight? So glad you guys are here. We just got back from Tombstone, Arizona, where we just got done doing the UFO show live there at the Tombstone Wild West PARACON Part 2. You know, the UFO show was the first act on stage during the PARACON in Tombstone, the first annual Wild West PARACON. And Tombstone was gracious enough to have us back. And you know what? Thank you, Tombstone, for having us back, letting us do the UFO show there in Schleffelin Hall. It was great. I love doing the PARACONs. I want to give a great thank you to Carissa and Bruce and everyone else that was involved in this PARACON. Thank you so much for having us back. Also, I want to give a great shout out, thank you, to the people who showed up to the UFO show. Thank you so much, man. You guys are awesome. You had some wonderful questions, and it was a great turnout. And I got to meet some of you who watch our channel. And it was, oh man, I loved meeting you guys. You guys are great. You had some wonderful questions, and I just want to say thank you for coming out. And you'll be pleased to know that all the ticket sales from the UFO show went back to Tombstone, and they're using it to get new drapes for Schleffelin Hall. Isn't that great? So thank you guys so much for coming out and being a part of the Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky UFO show live in Tombstone, Arizona. You guys are awesome. I can't say thank you enough. Without you, we wouldn't be here today. And another shout out I'd like to shout out, another person I'd like to thank is Eldon from the Paranormal Family channel on Roku. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Paranormal Family channel on Roku. If you guys are into paranormal, ghost hunting and things like that, this is a great show on Roku TV. Lots of other paranormal investigators there. They're all wonderful people. You're going to have a great time. The Paranormal Family channel on Roku. I think I got it all done that time. So, you know what? Without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the Phoenix Lights UFO show that was recorded at the Wild West PARACON in Tombstone, Arizona. Boy, my tongue is just wants to twist and tie and all kinds of stuff. So thank you guys again. Let's get started on the UFO show in Tombstone, Arizona.
scientific techniques and a shift in how we think about these sightings. NASA's administrator says the panel of experts which produced the report did not find any evidence of extraterrestrial origin of these UAP, but couldn't find any terrestrial explanation either.
There's a whole fleet of them won't come in. My gosh. We're going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots to the west. Holy shit. That's not how that's what is it? It's not. I do know now. Well, it's absolutely. It's rotating.
Lights captured world attention, of course, and opinions are still varied. Just put that down right there. Are still varied on what exactly they were. But a number of people believe that the objects seen in the sky that night have been with us for centuries. Beverly shows us records that some of Arizona's earliest residents left behind.
Perhaps no one spends as much time on cyber mysteries as Jeff Woolwine.
But when these lights come on, it's like somebody with a switch on a wall. Here we are.
The Phoenix man has hours and hours of videotaped airborne objects. He's convinced they're connected in some way to South Mountain.
South Mountain has been a chalkboard of UFO sightings and reports for thousands of years. When you look at these petroglyphs, you have to look at the whole landscape.
Woolwine takes people on tours of the petroglyphs here, pointing out rock etchings that he says look like things he's videotaped in the sky. And Jeremy Fox believes
there's definitely certain shapes on these rocks that look similar to UFOs. I think we're in a very important spot in the UFO world.
Jeff Woolwine, the first person to do this. Jeff, thank you so much for coming.
Woolwine's passion gets him noticed. He's been interviewed dozens of times. The Cutting Edge TV show tapes in Tucson and airs in 10 cities around the country. Host Jim Rogers says,
I think he's as honest as the day is long.
He describes his guests as top-notch, credible, and says Woolwine is one of the good guys.
He's giving DVDs away to people to open their hearts and minds to the stuff. His heart is in this. He's not in this for profit.
Woolwine's tours are free too, and you're free to believe or not.
So whether you believe in UFOs or not, there is something here. And they were here a long time ago. And their sightings is recorded on the mountain.
Is there something about this area that attracts these objects? Pat meets Jeff Woolwine, a UFO researcher at the foot of the White Tank Mountains. These hills are riddled with petroglyphs, rock art carved into the landscape primarily by the Hohokam, a Native American people who lived here from 200 BCE to 1400 CE and then mysteriously disappeared.
Clearly, the Hohokam are seeing things in the sky as we're seeing now, strange objects, strange lights, if you will. They didn't have video cameras back then. They had stone boulders to record something significant, something to remember in history. They wanted to copy this down so people would understand what had happened here.
Pat and Jeff hiked to the spot where strange petroglyphs have been found. Among the petroglyphs is an image Jeff believes to be significant.
You'll notice this interesting line here. It has a black hair, black hair, black hair in a line. In today's world, what we like to call them is barbells.
Barbell-shaped UFOs, like this one videotaped over Phoenix on January 24th, 2005, are well known to modern researchers. It's possible that local tribespeople were inspired to record their own sightings on these very rocks nearly a millennium ago.
And when you say barbell, you mean barbell-shaped UFO?
Barbell-shaped UFO.
It's the story of getting all over this mountain here. There's 1,000 years of history that has been lost in history that either purposely has been erased or just people just forgotten.
What you choose to believe about Jeff Woolwine and his petroglyph theories is entirely up to you. And whether he's a madman or a genius, I guess no one can say.
Welcome to the Phoenix Lights, petroglyphs in the sky, UFO show with your host, Jeff Woolwine.
Hello, Tombstone, Arizona. Welcome to the Phoenix Lights, petroglyphs in the sky, UFO show. My name is Jeff Woolwine. How is everyone doing this morning? Thank you guys for getting up so early in the morning on this Sunday morning. Holy cow. We are here to talk about the Phoenix Lights, to talk about the history of the Phoenix Lights. Yes, there is a history, folks. I have a lot of information crammed in. It's only an hour and a half. So let's get right down to it. So I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I can remember seeing things in the sky since I was a kid. Playing catch football with my dad and being more in the sky, more light. And I remember being in the 5th grade, I went to school and I was telling my friend, who just happened to be a little Native American boy, "Did you see those lights last night?" He goes, "Oh yeah, my grandfather says those lights live in the mountains." And he points on the west side of Phoenix, Arizona. You know, being a kid, you're just like, okay, cool. Growing up, you're seeing more and more and more of them. And you just want to get some answers for yourself. That's why you did this. Not for anything else, but for my own, trying to figure out, why am I seeing these things in the sky? I love history. I love archaeology. I've been an amateur archaeologist way before I started studying UFOs. I just love history. And so what I did is I found out, because we all know about the 1997 Phoenix Lights, March 13th. And I was following that case. And there were some other skywatchers out there. I was watching these other skywatchers because they were seeing lights too, after and before March 13th, 1997. And so in 2004, I saw a news report. And the lights seemed to be back. And so I knew that was the time. The lights are here, now's the time to go out there and hunt them. Because I wanted to go see them. I wanted to go find them. I knew they were real, they were here, they're back, let's go get them. And I believe nothing is coincidence. I believe everything happens for a reason. Just so happens that when I'm getting my cameras ready, getting ready to go, what do I see on TV? But a Native American who works at the Pueblo Indian Art Museum in downtown Phoenix, I see him on Chevrolet. And he's up there on South Plaza. And he's talking about the prehistoric rock art, the petroglyphs. And one person turns around and he says, well, that stick figure man looks like he's looking up at something in the sky above his head. And Dave, his name was, turned around and says, yes, that is part of the interpretations here, is that our ancestors saw and recorded things that they saw in the sky. Wait a minute. What did you really just say that? This is 2004. So the Phoenix Lights happened in 1997. Now we're in 2004. No one's talking about the history of Phoenix. No one's talking about the Native American point of views of what these Phoenix Lights is. No one's talking about the rock art on the mountains. So this is way before UFO on our show. This is way before Ancient Aliens. This is way before Mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch. While those shows were just a thought or just an idea, I'm up on the mountain. I'm hunting these things down. I'm doing my studies. I'm doing my research. So I kept that information in the back of my head. I'm like, wait a minute, no one's talking about the petroglyphs. Well, let's just sit on it for a minute. I got this guy's information. I know where the word's at. Right now, I'm chasing the lights. Lights are back. So I remember this guy named Tom King. And actually, he was one of the ones that first saw and recorded the Phoenix Lights. We're going to see some of this footage tonight. And so he was videotaping these lights. And why do we have... So let's look at 1997, March 13th. So a big reported something flying over the city of Phoenix. And I tell you what, man... I'm an investigator. We have to go on credibility. We have to go on facts. We can't go on here and say, hearsay's fine. We have to go on evidence. And what do we have, really? We have 4 videos of lights on the west side of Phoenix, on the west side of South Mountain. That's it. 4 videos. Tom King is one of them. So my point is, and he's a Skywalker, he was ready. Why? Because he was seeing lights weeks and days before March 13, 1997. So he was ready. If anything was going to fly over the city of Phoenix, boom, well, I tell you what, he would have been the first one to see and film that. So my point is, we have to go on what is credible, what we know for a fact, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And so I'm out there filming these lights in 2004, and they're over the same area. And the end result was, 1997, we're all seeing flares. So I did a lot of news reports in 2004. They called the military involved. They started dropping flares 150 miles away. And I'm like, wait a minute, these things are right here by South Mountain. So before I go any further, let's go ahead and take a look at the Phoenix Lights, because we don't have a lot of time. I can go on for hours on this. So let's go on. Let's take a look at the Phoenix Lights. This is the most famous sighting here. This is South Mountain here. Back here is the Australian Mountains. I'm going to show this here in a minute. And it just so happens that South Mountain has the exact same type of rock formation carved on South Mountain as we see in 1997. Let's go ahead and look at what it looks like during the daytime. So this is the exact same place on where the lights were filmed at. There's the Australian Mountains, which means star Mountain. Here's South Mountain. And when we combine them, we can see that the lights are not over Australia, but right there in the valley. Are they moving? No. They're stationary. Let's get a closer look. Let's look at Tom King. Now, Tom King, this is a video that hasn't been seen a lot. And Tom King is right there. So let's take a look at what Tom King filmed.
They're lined up in a pattern, man. There's geometry behind this.
I can't even look at that.
Man, this is... Let's see. Oh, there's 3 of them.
No,
over here there's 4. Yeah, over the top right now. I don't know, but I got it on tape. What does it look like, Bill? They look like...
What do they look like? Like a sphere before?
Yeah, they're spears now. Yeah, they just transformed into circles right now, right as you were talking.
So here's the lights that I started filming in 2004. Let's take a brief look at this. So the end result is we're all seeing flares. Well, flares don't act like this. There's no smoke, there's no fire. They're in perfect formation. Look at that. And this is on the east side of South Mountain. In 1997, Phoenix lights happened on the west. I'm catching them over here on the east. Why do I choose the east? Because Tom King was over here in the east years before filming. So I knew that the east side was a hot spot for these Phoenix lights. So I kind of went on a hunch and moved to Mesa, Arizona, outside of Phoenix. And I watched. It didn't take very long. These things showed me that they were here, and I followed them. I followed them to this spot here. And I'll tell you what, I must have the most sightings of the Phoenix lights. Look at that. We have the exact same rock art on South Mountain. Little Kylie got his ears. Little guy there looking up. Exact same thing. Let's take a closer look. Where am I? Here's South Mountain. Here's why I'm right here. I'm at Mesa Community College. Phoenix is over here. Here's where the lights are happening at, right there. What's in that spot there? What is that? What is attracting? Why are the lights hanging up? And the whole summer of 2004, I must have about 150 sightings of that summer. And look what we have here. We have a power plant here. And later on, in my research, and studying South Mountain and studying Phoenix, Arizona, I went to the Phoenix Library. I'm just not going on here to say, I'm doing an investigation here. And so I went to the downtown Phoenix Library, and I said, give me everything you have on South Mountain. Came out with a folder, and in this folder, I found this map. And this is from the first 12 runs when they first got here. Here's South Mountain over here. This is the area that we're seeing the lights at. Right here is where the power plant is today. All these little arrows, all these marks here is where, when the Pilgrims first got here, this is where all the Hohokam villages were, all the ruins were. But look at this. And all these lines here is canal systems. These are all canals from the first Native Americans and the Hohokam Indians. And right here, look at this here. This seems like a major spot. And this Spanish word here means the dead. Why would this area be called the dead? Possible graveyard? Could be. Let's continue. All communities and the cover-up history of Phoenix, Arizona. So, you know what? For like a whole year, all right, so I'm out there on South Mountain, I'm hiking the mountain. They're telling me I'm seeing flares. I'm like, no way, these things are right here in the valley. no smoke. But in my investigations, I learned that these things like mountains. And as a matter of fact, I followed these lights, okay? And where were they going? They were going towards South Mountain. So I followed them, man. And I sat there the whole summer 2004 and I saw them. And then they're telling me I'm seeing flares. I'm like, at the end of 2004, I'm like, you know what? Let's move to South Mountain. Let's just go there and see. Maybe we get some deja-vus. Because in my investigations, mountains seem to be the source, the heart of where to see UFO activity at. So I moved there in 2005. And so not only to get a better look, but to hike South Mountain and find out exactly what is there. And, you know, a whole year, I'm finding a lot of evidence. And like I said before, I love history, I love archaeology. I mean, I can spot something man-made a mile away. I know when something is not natural, something is not normal. So I'm finding all this stuff. I'm finding evidence of not only the PARACON rock cover, but also the Mayans and the Aztec. And of course, I'm studying the archaeologist's book. I got his book. I'm reading his stuff. And I'm finding all this stuff out there that it's not adding up. They tell you to stay on the trails. Well, you know why? Because when you go off the trails, that's where the clues are. That's where the information is. And I soon learned that it was a cover-up of history. So the archaeologist wants us to believe that the Hohokam Indians, and let's study Hohokam. What is Hohokam? Hohokam were first Native Americans who settled in the Valley of the Sun. The Pima Indians considered themselves ancestors to the Hohokam. Matter of fact, they named the Pimas. They named the Hohokam. Because the people who were gone, the people who were missing, because we don't know what happened to these people. They were here for 1,000 years, masters of the canal system, and then all of a sudden, they disappeared. Archaeologists want us to believe that they simply migrated somewhere else because they got too hot. Well, that's the case. Where did they go? There's no evidence on any place on where these people went. They were here for 1,000 years. Gone. Were they here? Next day, gone. And you know what? There's another tribe. I believe really that the Tohono tribe is more ancestral to the Hohokam Indians, more than the Pimas. But the Pimas named them the Hohokam, the people who got taken away, the people who were gone. So I'm finding all this evidence on South Mountain for a whole year. I'm doing radio shows, I'm doing TV shows, I'm talking about this stuff. I even did a news report with a city archaeologist. He's not talking about any of what I'm finding out here. I'm getting very frustrated, right? So back to the Phoenix Library, open up that folder. Who is sitting right there in front of my face? The first park ranger, Charles Holbert, 1930s to the late 1940s. And what is he doing? He wrote this article on how he's talking about the Mayans were here with the Hohokam Indians. He's talking about a lot of stuff that we say the archaeologist is talking about. Where I get ahead of myself, let's continue. So we know that the Hohokam Indians saw things in the sky. This is a perfect example. So this is on a mountain. This is the mountain that, I don't know if you all watch college football, this is the place, this is the mountain where ASU Stadium, football stadium is. And right off of there, we find these petroglyphs. And it looks like a family looking up at orbs in the sky. So we have strange lights in the sky, we have strange things in the sky. Now we have strange markings of the exact same thing that we're seeing today. And these were carved over 1,000 years ago. And no one is putting this together yet. We're in 2005, 97 happened March 13th. Now we're in 2005, and no one's talking about the petroglyphs. No one's looking into it. Here we have another one. This is on South Mountain. Look it up, and it's something in the sky. This one is crazy. I love this one. Now look at this here. We have this guy looking up. This is on South Mountain. Looking up at a barbell in the sky. And what about this head here? Is this interesting? We find the exact same type of skull in Peru that we're finding on South Mountain. How is this possible? Where did the little companies go? Well, archaeologists. Oh, they simply migrated somewhere else because they got hot. We don't know where they went, but they are here now. They just did not. But Charles Holbrook, see, when Charles Holbrook was custodian of South Mountain, the Native Americans back then, they trusted Charles and they told him all the secrets of South Mountain. They told him where gold was buried left by the lions. They told him where the locations were. They told him about sacrificing altars. They told him a lot of stuff. And he wrote this in his journal. Now, I found information on Charles Holbrook in many parts of the Southwest, from California to Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, Arizona. This guy he's only 5'5". He was a short man with big 6 shoes on his hips. But his legacy, man, there's files that I couldn't even get into. That's so tightly sealed, I can't get into. But he knew what the real history of Phoenix is. And, sometimes he leaked that information out, and it was his downfall. And we'll get into that here. That's what happened. So, Native Americans, they're telling them, well, you know what? Our people just didn't walk away from here. Let's look at the rock art. So here we have a sighting here. We have a guy looking up at a light in the sky. Okay? Such a pretty little sighting. Sightings that we see today. But what's happening? What is going on now? Something is coming down from this light. Something is picking this guy up. What is going on here? So what we're dealing with here over my many years of investigations, because I lived by South Mountain for 3.5 years, and I saw these things come and go, right? And, I was on the same trail as everyone else. Spaceships, technology, aliens, men from Mars. Wow, cool, this is great, this is a miracle. I'm going down that path, but you know what? We have to go on evidence. We can't go on hearsay. We have to go on proof. This is where the credibility lies at. Because we can't go up and start saying, well, spaceships, aliens, blah, blah. Don't get me wrong. I have seen some things in the sky that could resemble a craft. I'm open to that. But I think what the majority of the people are seeing today is something different. And you know, when I first discovered this in 2005, everyone's laughing at me, blah, blah, blah. Dude, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, look at the evidence here. Look at this. These things are alive. These things are living creatures. These things are living entities. Because they were flying right over my apartment. I lived about a mile and a half away from South Mountain on the east side. These things would come down on South Mountain, a little bit later they would leave, and they were shape-shifting, the changing shape, man. This is not technology, I'm learning. I'm seeing something here that is not resembling spaceships. It's not resembling crafts. So before what Charles Colbert did, remember I told you that Charles Colbert was telling people about, you know, some of the stuff that Native Americans were telling him. And so he started talking about some of the tombs, some of the gold tombs left on South Mountain. He writes in his journals that's still in the library today in a folder in the government department. You have to get an ID to see this information, but it's there. He writes that the Mayans and the Holocom left gold on South Mountain. He says before they left, the gold was as round as the sun and as tall as the tallest saguaro packets. There's a lot of gold buried on South Mountain. And you know, because I'm going around and I'm finding all this evidence, man. I'm finding tombs. I'm finding evidence of stuff that is just not normal from what we have been taught in schools by the archaeologists. Everything that I'm seeing out there is not adding up. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at it for an example. So here on South Mountain, we find this hill here. That's Phoenix. We're on South Mountain, that's Phoenix. We find this pyramid type hill there. We see a little white ring here. Look at this. In front of the pyramid, we find this white circle there. Someone has documented it. This is from the satellites. This is from Google Earth. We can still see that. And we can see what looks like a hallway. So the pyramid's here. We're on the ground now. And we see what looks to be a hallway leading up into this pyramid hill. In front, before we go into the hallway, in front of this, what do we see? We see a stone here in front of the hallway with Roman numerals on it. Someone has came around and documented way before, I believe, the pioneers got here, way before the first settlers came back to Phoenix after the Holocom left, taken away, gone. Because this isn't Holocom. You know, I'm doing lectures too, and a lot of people, I'm talking to a lot of people now, and they're like, dude, there's Roman numerals over there, there's Roman numerals over there. So someone has documented all these places on where these tombs are. Let's continue. So much history and evidence. So as we walk and continue to go through the hill, or the hallway, excuse me, we find this rock here on our left. And normally, when we see a depiction of arms coming down, that is a symbol for death. Here we have the arms in the appeasement pose, and now we have arms coming down, meaning death. As we look a little bit higher on the wall here on this hallway leading to this pyramid tomb, we find another one. This one's laying down there. Okay? Arms coming down. Symbol for death. So we know something's buried there, right? Now this is interesting. So a little bit higher up on the on the wall here, coming closer to the pyramid in the hallway, we find this symbol here. Now this is interesting. This is Mayan. This is a symbol for the Quetzalcoatl guy, the headed serpent from Mexico. Right? These are symbols of the Quetzalcoatl, the famous headed serpent. As we continue up into the hallway, something is blocking our path here. Look at this stone. All this is all debris. All this stuff here is debris. Now, when we come up on top, the hallway's here now. Here's the circle. We can see this area here. All this rock here has been broken up and pushed over. Look at this. Somebody very big, somebody very powerful concealed the doorway to the tomb. Look at the evidence here. Look at this. We cannot deny what we were looking at here. This is not natural. Now we'll come back to this stone here, blocking our way into the tomb here. But I want us to concentrate on this. Let's look at that for a minute. You see the way that's shaped? See the way that's cut? When we come up on top, we see the exact same type of formation here. So it's safely to say that this stone here on the bottom was once here up on top. Somebody very big, very powerful picked this stone up and threw it here. Now we're looking at dead on. How do we know it was thrown there? How do we know? Because of the scratches. Look at this. You see the scratch marks leading down? Boom, boom, boom. Bounce off the rock. Slide, slide, stop. It's been sitting there for over 1,000 years. Look at the evidence here. We cannot deny the evidence. There is something there. And not far away from this tomb, about 100 feet away, we find these slabs of stone. And they're altars. And we can see some type of design still left here. This is oriented towards the east. They have always been here. So, when you talk to the Native Americans, they tell you, look, we come up on the mountains, we talk to the spirits. Well, they're talking to the Phoenix Lights. They're talking to these things in the sky. They have always been here. I'm going to tell you a secret. I learned over many, many, many years of investigations, crossing my T's, dotting my I's, because look at this. So I'm going down the road, technology, spaceship, blah, blah, men from Mars, which is cool, I'm hoping. But the evidence is taking me down a different path. And I'm sorry, I have to go where the credibility lies at. I have to go where history is telling us. What is history telling us?
Around dawn on April 14, 1561, residents of Nuremberg saw what they described as an aerial battle, followed by the appearance of a large black triangular object, and then a large crash outside of the city. The broadsheet claims that witnesses observed hundreds of spheres, cylinders, and other oddly shaped objects that moved radically overhead. A record of the event was captured by a local newspaper.
Hundreds of people saw what they described as an aerial battle raging in front of the sun. The spectacle was recorded by the artist Hans Glaser, who lived in Nuremberg and so presumably witnessed the event himself.
So we have been seeing throughout history, we've been seeing and recording things in the sky ever since we can, remember, we can record these things. Now look at this. We have the lights here, like the Phoenix Lights. We have some long, slender objects here. Look at that. This is the city down here. Look at these. What I want us to concentrate the most, I bring this in my presentation the most, is let's look at these jacks here. Let's concentrate on these jacks. I have seen the exact same thing in the sky. but they were going counterclockwise. And it just so happens that the Holcomb Indians carved the exact same side of their Phoenix in the Valley of the Sun.
Petroglyphs in the sky, watching UFOs fly by. We in the southwest Arizona, to northern Texas, UFOs are among us. Petroglyphs in the sky.
So why do I call it petroglyphs in the sky? Well, is it crafts in the sky? Is it aliens in the sky? It's petroglyphs, because what we are seeing now is what the Holcomb Indians saw back then. We now know without a shadow of a doubt, all the mountains around Phoenix is talking about the same thing. They didn't have video cameras back then. They didn't have the cell phones to record what they saw in the sky. They had stone boulders to record their sightings at. So basically what we are looking at in these petroglyphs is pre-recorded, is prehistoric photographs of UFO sightings, without a shadow of a doubt. This, in my opinion, in my mind, is the biggest conspiracy of the world, and these things have always been with us. I like to look at the 3 points of credibility here. One, we can read about these things in ancient scrolls, biblical scrolls, Aztec, Mayan, Anunnaki. And now we can take that information, we can read about it, now we go on some of these sacred mountains, and we can see the exact same thing on what these scrolls are talking about, carved on the mountains, on these holy mountains, these sacred mountains. You know, the Americans, they're telling us, look, dude, you can't be doing stuff, man. You can't be doing this to the mountains. Why? Because this is where these spirits are. They have always been here. Are they from another world? In my opinion, what we're seeing mostly in the sky, orbs, lights, weird things now. And it's going to happen. You're going to see a lot more coming. I discovered this in 2005. And look what's going on today. We are seeing a lot of stuff happening now. Lots of things in the sky, on the ships. I think the reason why, we understand technology, we understand crafts, we understand ships, aliens. Why not? Because we have ships, we have technology. So we can relate to that. We understand that. So, to our mind, in our mind, it's logical that that light in the sky is a craft. It must be a craft. Because we understand spaceships, we understand crafts. But because this knowledge has been covered up, lost, taken away from us, we're not really understanding that, wait a minute, what if that light isn't a craft at all, but a living entity? What if that light is a living creature? We see 5 lights out there. Someone say, oh, that's a big cloaked ship. It's a spaceship. Well, what if each light is each living creature, living entity? And my point is, they're not from outer space, they're from inner space. They have always been here. This is their world too. They live here among us. They have always been here with us. All the way through time, man. Look at the evidence. Look what the Native Americans are telling us. Look what all the scrolls, ancient scrolls are telling us about these things. They have always been here with us. It's their world too. I recorded this on South Mountain in 2005. I'm about a mile away from South Mountain. And we can see here, when we freeze the frame, we can see like what I call a crooked snake. Up on South Mountain, we have the exact same type of UFO sighting carved over 1,000 years ago. And now we're seeing it.
There's something happening in the just a little bit of that previous year. I think the happiness is very near. I'm checking out a show with a glass of eye. I look up at the sun as it through the sky. Here it comes by UFO. Here it comes by UFO.
So, as you can see, from the evidence I've collected over the years, all those sightings here in Phoenix that you just saw, I count. And I have more. I have so much. I probably have to hold the record here. Means that it's one of the most sightings because I go hunting for them. I go looking for them. And when you search, you will find. You will see. You will find it. So when we look at them, we're looking at, look, that's not spaceships, right? They're changing. They're changing shape. Archaeologists like to call them anthropomorphs. All these strange carvings of weird shapes that we see from the Native Americans. The archaeologists call them anthropomorphs. So they're morphing, they're changing shape. Shapeshifters. This I love. Let's take a look at this. holy cow. This was filmed in Colorado. Look how this thing is moving. This is not a crap. This is not technology. This thing is clearly alive. And it's scary stuff. This is the reason why they're not telling you about this, because this is what's really here. And it's very frightening stuff. It's scary stuff. And a lot of people isn't going to be able to accept this. They accept spaceship crafts, aliens, of course. We understand that. But when it comes to something like this is scary. And we have to understand their past. This is my favorite part. Look at how the tail moves with the head. Oh, I love that sighting. That is just crazy. This is real. This is what we are dealing with here in our world. And like I said, they've always been here. More and more is coming out as years progress. Love that sighting. That's crazy. This is just the beginning. Just the beginning. As we see that they're shape-shifting. So all these lights that we see now, and orbs, I've seen it. You will too. You're going to see this. These orbs, these lights, they're going to change. They're going to anthropomorph, okay? They like to mimic humans. They mimic animals. They shape-shift, they change. The Native Americans, they've been telling us all these years. They've documented this. Look at this, Utah. They would have a star, carving of a star, but look what's going on now. He's starting to grow arms and stuff. He's anthropomorphing. He's changing. He's changing. And now, look at him now. He's anthropomorphing, shape-shifting into the likeness of a man. This is just the beginning that we're seeing in the skies today. Here on South Mountain, let's look at this. So a lot of people are looking at some of these rock art, okay, and there's a lot of lizard men, theories, myths, legends of lizard men. As a matter of fact, one of the stories here that I learned from a Native American who was teaching me the rock art, because this isn't my story. I am not making any of this up. All this information has always been with us. This is not my interpretation. This is not my theory. I'm going on facts. Okay, I'm going down the road here. This is where the information is taking me. And so a lot of them are saying, the lizard. So the Native American, Dave, he says when the first Native Americans moved to this valley, they didn't know how to live. They didn't know how to survive. So the spirits of the earth and sky came up from the ground, down from the heaven, and they anthropomorphed, they shapeshift to look like everyone else. And they taught these Indians, these Native Americans, how to survive. And in return, they worship these things as gods. And so a lot of archaeologists, a lot of historians, a lot of theories say that this circle in this what looks like a stick figure man is him halfway in our world, halfway in the spirit world. What if he's really anthropomorphing? What if that orb, that circle in his belly there is actually an orb, and he's anthropomorphing, he's shape-shifting into the likeness of a man. He's changing, he's morphing. And then we have a guy down here and he's dancing. He's happy because his spirit has came to see him in the sky. Spirals. So spirals are symbols for doorways. Now, there are some spirals that are symbols for water, but when it comes to these holy mountains, so some mountains have rock art, okay? They're not really considered holy, okay? So they're talking about ceremonies. They're talking about changing of the seasons, okay? But these holy mountains, these sacred mountains with spirals on them and anthropomorphs, that is the source. That is the sacred mountain. That is the place where to see these beings at. Spirals. They are symbols for doorways into the underworld. So, when Dave was explaining to me about the spirals, he was saying that when a spiral is going clockwise, it's a doorway in. It's a doorway into the underworld. When a spiral is going counterclockwise, it's a doorway out. That means, and he said this, there's a vortex in the sky. I said, what? A vortex? Yeah, a vortex in the sky. And when we notice here, the spiral is ending down in this crack. He's explaining to me that that crack is the emergence point to the underworld. Oh, so I'm still thinking spaceship's crafts, a V-shaped worldwide craft going over the city of Phoenix, which nobody can prove. Right? We have hearsay, we have people writing books, we have movies, and theories, and this. No evidence of that. I'm sorry. If I found evidence, I've been looking for over 20 years now. I haven't found one single evidence of anything flying over the city of Phoenix. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying that there's no evidence of it. Maybe. But I strongly believe what we're dealing with here is something different. So I'm thinking to myself, how could a big crack get into a little crack like that, right, in the stone? Until I actually saw it, right? And I understand why they call these things spirits. Because when they come down out of the sky, I've seen this, I've documented it, I filmed it. They come down out of the sky. They make no sound, they make no shadows. They silently come in. And then they start to change. You can see through them. They're like a ghost. They're a spirit. And they absorb themselves into the stone. This, my friends, is why the government will never tell us about what's really going on there. It's because this is something completely different. So when we look at the landscape, okay, so when the Native Americans carve these symbols, they want us to look at the whole landscape. To understand the petroglyphs, you have to put the whole landscape in with the art to understand what's going on. Because he's putting the landscape in the art. And here's a perfect example of it. There's the crack. I'm talking about the doorway there. There's the crack there for the doorway. But look at this. Look at this here. Okay? Now let's take a look at the background mountains here. Alright? And now let's look at this. It's the exact same type of formation. He's telling us this is the Holy Land. That's the Holy Mountain there. Now look at this. This is on South Mountain. We have a spiral. There's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Counterclockwise, coming out. Ending down. This is high up on the rocks. I had to climb high up to get this photograph. This is high up in the sky. High up on the rock. I had to climb up to get this. There's like a crack down here. We have this like lizard guy over here. And we have another lizard, and we have another neck here. But look here in the middle. Let's take a look at the middle here. See, you can see like a ghost. It's like a little, it's a shadow figure of this guy here. So what he's telling us is this lizard came out of this spiral. First he looked like a ghost, and now he came, as he progressed out of the spiral, he became more solid. It's exactly what we're dealing with. Now we're talking about spirals. We're back to this panel, but look over here. We have these spirals here on this crack. We have a spiral clockwise going into the rock, and then we have a spiral going clockwise into the rock. So this crack is the emergence point for the doorway in and the doorway out. Why South Mountain? Well, that's a good question. A lot of people ask me, well, why are they hanging around South Mountain for all these thousands of years? Well, okay, so I'm filming the lights in 2004, 1997, lights happened over here. Matter of fact, I filmed this in 2010. The lights are still continuing to this day. It's hanging around South Mountain. You know, March 13th, 1997, that's nothing. Okay? These lights have been visiting this mountain for thousands of years. Why? Well, how was this mountain created? How were the mountains around the Valley of the Sun created? By fault lines. Fault lines. Energy. These beings are attracted to the energy, to the ley line, some would say, on this location. That would bring us back to the spirals. So, the Native Americans say they're going down into the underworld. But on a scientific analysis, they're going down into that energy spot. They're going down into that fault line. They're going down into that energy. Here's a perfect example of the spirals in motion here. This is what we're dealing with. And now I'm going to explain why there's a power station here, why the lights continue to visit this area here, and why the Hong Indians buried their dead in this spot here. So I learned that there's spirals on about 60% of the petroglyphs on South Mountain. There's a lot of spirals carved, a lot of doorways. South Mountain is on the east side is older than the west side. And we know from the Native Americans the east is the sacred point because of the morning sunrise. It's the emergence point, right? It's the morning sunrise. So it's sacred, the east side. Seeing the energy. Holy cow. Hang on to your hats, folks. So I filmed this creature in 2005. I'm by South Mountain and made this video you're about to see, made video of the day on this channel. Oh, by the way, all my stuff, before it aired on TV, before it aired on cable shows, before it aired, they verified that I'm not faking this stuff, okay? They've been video analyzing my stuff for years now, okay? Because it's you know, even when I was doing the UFO Hunter show, so I did the pilots in 2005. So my information, I mean, it was cool. I made the news in 2004 with the lights. And now in 2005, I'm talking about the rock art. No one has done this before. No one has successfully connected the rock art to the things in the sky. No one's ever done that before. We think, right, up until that point, we think that the Native Americans saw things in the sky. We think this. But now, without a shadow of a doubt, we know now that these symbols, that these things that we see, is prehistoric UFO sightings. And so now, so the word gets around, and so Pat Buster, now, one of the co-hosts for the UFO Hunter Show on History Channel, back then, the UFO Hunter Show was originally called UFO Road Trip. And he was doing the pilot, and he saw my theories and stuff about South Mountain and the Phoenix Lights. He called me up, got a hold of me. I did a pilot for the UFO on the show from the Ancient Aliens TV series. And then later in 2007, when the show finally aired on the History Channel, they came back to do a full episode. That's what you saw earlier with us up on the White Tank Mountains. So my point is, it was all new back then. And so they're saying, well, it's just personal interpretation of the rock art. It's just his idea. But later on, man, years go by, people are calling me and writing me, dude, I saw a flying snake in the sky. I saw an anthropomorph in the sky, So it's catching up. Now we're talking about energy. So look at this thing here. We're going to see something incredible that's never been seen before. This creature flew at me coming east. This made video of the day on his channel 3. It zoomed by the window, it zigzagged in front of me, and it took off across South Mountain, and you can see it's totally in control of itself. This is 2005, folks. Drones wasn't available to the public until 2007. This can't possibly be a drone. Look how it's in control and how it flips around on itself. This thing is in control. Now you're going to see something that's never been seen before. We put a filter on this thing, and now we can actually see on how these creatures use the energy to propel themselves through the sky. Look on how we can see the energy. Look how he uses this energy to hold himself in the sky, to fly in the sky. Look at this. This has never been seen before. You're seeing it first, folks. This has never been seen before. Now it's going away, and look how it stops. He'll stop for a minute. Boom. He stopped. Boom. More energy comes out to control himself flying through the sky. That is incredible. That's never been seen before. Now we know exactly how they propel themselves to the sky. The feathered serpent. So why are the Aztecs, why are the Mayans talking about flying serpents? Why are the holocoms talking about flying serpents? Okay, let's look at this here. It's on Phoenix, South Mountain. This is on the east side, of course. It's sacred. But I want us to concentrate here. Look at this area here. It's in the shape of a snake. See that there? They purposely carved that image out of those boulders. All those boulders are natural, folks. Those were placed there. Okay? And we can see on how the pyramid in Mexico resembles. There's the feathered serpent pyramid in Mexico. And now we can see the snake here. Look at that there.
So I find it fascinating that the same type of feathered serpent that we find in Mexico, as far as the Aztec and the Mayan pyramids, we find here on South Mountain. This is very significant here on the mountain, because this right here shows the head of the snake, the mouth of the snake. And he's eating the boulder, the exact same type of stuff that we find in Mexico. We're finding here in Phoenix, Arizona on South Mountain.
And so let's take a look, because the artist wants us to look at the whole landscape. Remember? We have to look at the whole landscape here. And when we do, we notice, look at the background here. Look at that hill. You see this hill? It resembles some of the pyramids that we find in Mexico. See that there? The feathered serpent. The exact same type of things we see in Mexico.
Down the trail of the snake.
carving spaceships in the sky? No. Are they carving little aliens on South Mountain and around Phoenix, Arizona? No. They're carving something different. They're carving flying serpents. I've been all over Phoenix. I've climbed all the mountains. My knees are testimonial. I have bad knees because for the last 15 years when I was doing this research, I have been doing a lot of hiking, a lot of documentation. I'm looking for evidence. And what do I see? Do I see spaceships? I don't see any cracks. I see feathered serpents. This is on South Mountain. So this is high up. This is high up. So I had to climb high up to see this. So this is the reason why. So we have to put the landscape in with the art. So the artist is talented. He carved it high in the sky because he wants you to look in the sky. Because he saw this in the sky. This is how we understand some of the rock art. When we see glyphs high up on the rocks up there, because they're telling us it's a pretty sort of photograph of what he saw in the area of where he saw it at. So we see petroglyphs here, but we don't see any petroglyphs over there because nothing happened over there. It happened over here. We don't see petroglyphs over there, we see petroglyphs here. Because this is a prehistoric testimony, a written carving record photograph of what happened here. This is why we're not supposed to move the rock art. When you see the rock, leave it there. Because they're telling us, they've documented everything for us. The only thing we have to do now is understand. And when you do, when you open your mind to this, and you understand what they're telling us here, it all makes sense. Everything falls into place. I had to climb up high to get this photograph. Now look at this. Now see, I put the sky in there for a reason. I photographed this in the sky. We have a leader, a tribal leader. We have a goat there. He don't care. He's looking the other way. He's used to these things. When you ask him, hey, what about the Phoenix lights? Oh, man, that's nothing. This guy, he's impressed, and he's looking up at a flying snake, a flying serpent. This is why they're called a feathered serpent, because of water. A mountain, we have a man looking up at a flying serpent. And look, there's a huge serpent that flew over South Mountain. Carved, a written testimony.
So here we have a spiral on Signal Hill, and so we're looking up. This is high up on the hill. We're up pretty much in the sky because the artist is wanting us to look up because this is where he saw this happen at, this occurrence at. And so they didn't have video cameras, they didn't have anything else to record, so they did it on special places on where the event took place at. So here we have a spiral. It's a doorway going out, okay, and it's ending up. So the vortex, the doorway, the emergence point is in the sky here. Now, we have this serpent coming out of this spiral. Those of you who have been following me all these 20 years or so know I've shown many, many serpents in the sky coming and going from South Mountain. This is a perfect example of what the art is trying to tell us here. The artist is telling us that this serpent came out of this doorway here. Now, we have, when we look higher up, he wants us to look higher in the sky. We have what looks like a lizard man, okay? But in reality, what the artist is trying to tell us is, this is an orb here. His head is an orb, his body is an orb, and his tail is an orb. And what is going on here is they're connected together in a line, and they're making these shapes. So it looks like he's mimicking, they are mimicking what looks like a human figure in the sky. Because that's what these things like to do. They like to shape shift. The Native Americans have been telling us forever that these things, they shape shift. And that's exactly what this being is doing. He's shape shifting into the likeness of a man. We have 3 orbs, and he's looking like this.
This mount here is on Holbrook Trail. So after, Holbrook died, they dedicated a trail to him. They buried all his information, right? Because, his son, because he was telling people about some of the gold that was buried on South Mountain. So there were gold seekers coming up on South Mountain digging up the gold. And after Charles Holbrook passed away, his son wrote a book on his father, and he was telling how he witnessed his father chasing people away from the gold, chasing people away. And so there was one information where the Spanish conquistadors, so the archaeologists won't even admit that the Spanish came this far. And Charles Holbrook writes in his journals, he calls it the lost city of Cibola, this lost city of gold. Right? Because he believed, and I believe, there's some gold evidence out there, that the gold seekers, the Spanish conquistadors, were here in the Valley of the Sun looking for the gold. And so there was legends here of 4 crosses, right, up on South Mountain. Huge 4 crosses. Well, one day, Charles Holbrook was up on a hill, and he looked down, and he saw these massive crosses. And he says, it must have taken a mighty army to construct those crosses. Well, he kept that a secret for about a year, until the city of Phoenix came out with a new map, and they put that hill on the map. And so he let the information know that there was crosses on that hill. Well, what happened? Gold seekers went out there, they destroyed the crosses looking for the gold, nothing happened. So that was my point on how Charles Holbrook, he tried to tell people what was there, the real history of Phoenix, but in the end, it was kind of ruining everything. It was kind of ruining the landscape. It's changing history, it's changing the way we think about Phoenix, Arizona. And so after his death, they buried all that information. And so they dedicated a trail to him, and they dedicated his lookout point. So on the Holbrook Trail, the first thing I noticed was, of course, the flying serpent here, the flying guy. Look at that. See that? This is a written testimony. This is a prehistoric photograph of what happened on South Mountain. Down here we have a guy. We don't have time to go into this guy, but he's shooting. Now, well, it's like a flying man, half serpent in the sky. We have these guys here holding a spiral. More over here holding like a flute. We come over here, we have, so they went to war with these things in the sky. We have coyotes, we have orbs, we have more serpents in the sky. This is a prehistoric photograph of what happened in this area of South Mountain. Well, how come there's, a lot of people are saying, well, how come we only have art? How come there's not a written language? Well, my friends, that explanation goes way back to when the giants were here. And yes, we find evidence of giants on South Mountain in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona. As we showed earlier on the tomb, somebody very big, very powerful, moved those rocks, and now we see prehistoric photographs of giants. But let's look at some of the evidence.
John, 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, so we gotta hurry. So here up on South Mountain, we can see what looks like an ancient wall. Okay, there's a rock art. Now I'm pointing at how these blocks were placed here. On the other side, they blew it up to conceal the history. So a lot of people are interested in the Superstition Mountains. But that mountain goes way back to when the giants were here. And so we're talking about the biblical flood, okay? And when the bloodthirsty giants were here. And so when the flood was coming, the lead giant didn't want his people to drown. So he told his people to come up on this huge stone. And the water was coming, so he used these magical words to raise this rock up. But the water kept coming. He used his magic words to raise the mountain up, but the water kept coming. He raised this huge stone into the highest mountain, but the water kept coming through these secret words, the secret knowledge. And then in his last bit of strength, because he didn't want his people to die, he turned them all to stone. And to this day, we can still see the watermark. Where the water stopped, and we can still see those giants turn to stone, weathering over the thousands of years, have taken their toll. But these are supposed to be the giants on South Mountain. This is on Camelback Mountain. We have one on Camelback. Excuse me, that was superstition. Now on Camelback, there's a giant there turned to stone. And this is a skull rock. So the Native Americans tell us that we're in many worlds. And so the first, second, and third world, and each time these beings are here to help or mislead mankind. And so the next world, after the giants and after the secret words, the holy people took the secret language away from the Native Americans. Because now, like I said, they're moving mountains. They're doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing. So over a time period, the secret language was no more. So all they had left was carvings, was rock art to explain their stories. Why haven't they made contact with them? Well, so we know that the Hohokam Indians, they saw things in the sky, okay? But what happened to them, okay? They saw things in the sky. To understand our future, we must understand our past. What does the past say? The past say that the Native Americans saw these things in the sky, and then they disappeared without history. This is why the United States government isn't going to tell you about these things because of its past, because of its history. Okay, because they had something to do with the Hohokam disappearance. So much information here. So much more to get into. And in conclusion, I want you to take a look at my books. Phoenix Lights, Cover Up History of Phoenix, Arizona, and Landscapes of the Spirits, True Stories, Myths, Legends of the UFOs of Phoenix. Find it on Amazon and Kindle. And thank you guys so much. You've had a great audience, and there's just so much more.